Okay, by my watch, it's 9:01. Welcome everybody to our seventh webinar in the Retaining Businesses During the Pandemic webinar series. We're pleased to host this by the University of Minnesota with a special guest today from MEDA. And I'll introduce our two speakers in a minute. But just want to remind you that you can watch this webinar later once we post the recording. I'll send it out to all the registrants, and I just sent out a couple of the previous ones today to the people who had registered. So you don't have to show up live to these things. You can feel fine to just register, and we'll send you the recording when they come out. And we're really pleased to have this topic today. Not only is there a pandemic, but obviously everyone knows that Minnesota and Minneapolis got rocked by the situation with the killing of George Floyd, and that has really obviously kind of seized the attention of this state and this country. So I think it's appropriate. That was not in our mind when we scheduled this webinar about supporting minority-owned businesses, but I think I'm pleased that we have this session to offer, and we're not trying to pretend that this session by itself can address the issues of dominant culture versus non-dominant culture, business development, but we're very pleased that Nick Wolff's going to be here from MEDA because they have long experience and he has some interesting things to share. So there'll be an evaluation at the end. We'll also send that out again to the people who attended the event. So please share with us this. I'm going to give a shout out to Kathy Mihelich from St. Cloud because she suggested 6 weeks ago that we need to have a session. We need to have sessions about reaching people of color and underserved audiences in the economic development arena. So thanks to her for giving us that idea. And that just goes to show you, those of you who fill out evaluations can have an impact on the programming. So thanks to Kathy, and thanks to those of you who will take the time to give us that kind of feedback either today or when you get it through the email. And finally, we'll introduce our speakers. We have Eric King, who is our Community Economics Extension Educator, who is in normal times stationed at the Robert Jones Urban Research and Outreach Center in North Minneapolis. He's been there for a couple of years, beaming out of his home office today. He is the interviewer, the discussant who will have the interview, the discussion, and then Mr. Nick Wolff, who has over 10 years of experience at the Metropolitan Economic Development Association, sorry. And I'll turn it over to them.
Great. So thanks, Michael. As Michael mentioned, we have Nick Wolff here from MEDA, who very excited to have as a guest today. So I think first off, why don't we kind of have you, Nick, tell us a little bit about the role that MEDA plays in Twin Cities and also kind of your role specifically with the organization.
Sure thing. Thanks, Eric and Michael, and I appreciate you guys having me. So I should point out that MEDA has been around for almost 50 years. We actually were founded after some civil unrest that occurred along Plymouth Avenue and in both Minneapolis and St. Paul in the late 1960s. 1967, but we were founded in 1971, and our office is located actually next to UROC there on Plymouth Avenue in North Minneapolis near the Penn and Plymouth intersection. I'm a business consultant with MEDA, as Eric indicated, and we work with entrepreneurs. I'm going to use the term Bypoc entrepreneurs. Bypoc as an acronym for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. So we work with Bypoc entrepreneurs across three primary areas, those being money, markets, and management. We serve clients on a vast array spectrum in business development, from strategic planning to mergers and acquisitions. We're a CDFI, so we're a community development financial institution. We do underwriting and loan servicing in-house. Last year, we did over $20 million in loans to BIPOC-owned businesses. And we operate the Minneapolis Business Development Agency, which is a federal business center that helps connect our clients to public and private contract opportunities. We're also involved in some policy work. We have spearheaded an initiative called Catalyst, where we are bringing together the different business support organizations in the Twin Cities, LEDC, NDC, Neon, ADC, all of these organizations that are doing great work and trying to get some collective movement so that our clients are able to get representation across different levels of government.
Great, great. So yeah, I guess kind of shifting here to kind of the last recent few months, how has the pandemic kind of changed the way that your organization, MEDA, operates? And also, how have you seen the pandemic kind of change the way that your clients operate right now?
Yeah, so, you know, the tools and the location for the way that we do consulting has changed, but we're constantly focused on advocating for the needs of our clients. Like everybody else, we've been forced to shift to more of a teleworking model, getting more and more comfortable on Zoom calls like this. And you know, it's something that I've tried to impart on my clients too. There are a whole host of best practices available to conduct virtual meetings, to do business remotely. And as you all are probably well aware, this mode of communication is probably going to be here for the long term. I've actually noticed myself that I much prefer speaking to my clients and working with businesses via a video conference like this, as opposed to just a phone call. I think typically in the past, I've oftentimes set up meetings with clients who are from all over the metro, and even some in greater Minnesota. And we do an in-person face-to-face meeting, because there's nothing like meeting face-to-face and to build that trust and build that relationship. But after that, we tend to have a lot of regular check-ins, whether, you know, reviewing financials, reviewing action plans, or what have you, via phone. And I've really tried to shift my work with clients to more of this video conferencing, because I think the ability to see people's facial expressions, you know, and a lot of the tools that are out there as far as instant messaging and document sharing have enabled us to work more remotely. In addition, I think this pandemic has really made us kind of rethink how we can improve and expand our reach with this kind of work. We know that there are Bypoc-owned businesses all across the state of Minnesota, and we are looking to connect with those entrepreneurs and work with them. And I think in the past there had been thoughts of, you know, how do we really work and address these businesses that are not located in the Twin Cities? But I think some of these virtual tools have maybe opened up the possibility of us working with them remotely and not needing necessarily a brick and mortar location in other parts of the state to work with these businesses.
So in some senses, there's been some new opportunities for networking and trying to make some connections, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And have you noticed the same kind of shift from the businesses, from your clients? Are they kind of trying to apply more technology and use more online resources at this time?
Yeah. Particularly, I have a couple of clients in the service industry who deal with sort of some psychological, psychiatric care, others who do more, another who does kind of translation interpretation companies. And I've been really impressed in their ability to adapt and utilize some telehealth tools, as some of the regulations around have been eased in their ability to work with patients and clients directly, that they've been able to adapt and utilize some of those tools.
Great. So yeah, maybe we could discuss maybe a few of the kind of broader challenges that you've seen emerged, specifically, yeah, with MEDA or other ED organizations, and then also specific to your clients or businesses that you kind of see as a common trend right now.
Sure. So, as Michael pointed out, as we started, it's not just the pandemic, it was the killing of George Floyd and that we're dealing with now. And, this is an incredibly challenging time. And I heard there's a business quote, that's the hard thing about hard things is they're hard. And talking about businesses recovering from this and coming out solvent on the other end of this pandemic it's super difficult. I don't pretend to have all the answers with regard to any of this, but I'm constantly trying to learn and educate myself and work with people and clients the best I can. I heard an analogy I thought was interesting with regard to the pandemic, that this crisis in the consumer service economy is akin to a weather-driven crisis in the agricultural economy, where your soil is healthy, but this year's crop is essentially lost. So it's, at least initially, it was really kind of a cash liquidity issue. And there were a lot of federal, as everybody knows, and state programs that were intended to sort of bridge this gap. But I've talked to a lot of businesses, and we've talked about, can you make it 1 or 2 months with no revenue or very limited revenue? Can you make it 3 to 4 months with, say, 50% of your revenue? Can you make it 6 months with 75% of your revenue? Looking again at sort of discretionary spending, there are exercises where you can go line by line, ranking by like decreasing necessity and really making tough decisions about sort of where to cut. I continue to advocate for the retention of key employees, whether it be at MEDA or businesses. I think, if the economy all of a sudden is switched back on, which is obviously not that simple, but replacing those key employees is something that you can't do. So I always encourage businesses to do clients to do everything they can to hang on to those employees during these times, utilizing the PPP and whatever cash they have available to do that. The other thing, I'll try to keep this moving and not take up too much time, is just maintaining a good relationship with a banker. A business banker that has lending authority. That was something that we saw early on, where a lot of our clients, and unfortunately a lot of Bypoc businesses were running into trouble. So this is a human, this is a relationship. Someone who you can go out to lunch with, someone that can review your financials, and someone you can negotiate with if you have, if you're borrowing money from one of these institutions. So I think banking relationships is key, and it maybe most importantly helps businesses avoid entering into predatory loan situations. which is something, that was an issue before the pandemic began, and now it's just the damage. It really just makes a bad situation so much worse. And stay clear of predatory lenders. If they are approaching you unsolicited via email or mail, this can really ruin. They're predatory lenders. Operate based on an individual's assets as opposed to their ability to repay, and I think that's a very dangerous and risky endeavor. So that's one thing that we continue to tell clients and individuals is avoid those predatory loans, and that's made easier with banking relationships, with whether it's a community bank or a traditional bank.
Very nice, very nice. I guess kind of going off of that, has the policies put in place kind of by like Minneapolis, where they're really targeting BIPOC businesses, has that helped kind of alleviate some of these challenges, or is it still kind of slow rolling and difficult to connect and develop those relationships in such a short time?
So there has been a lot of I think those initiatives have helped, and there's been a lot of funding available that is forgivable, that doesn't seem like too arduous of an application process, whether it's with Hennepin County, the city of Minneapolis, the state of Minnesota, or some of the federal programs. But we definitely noticed challenges, particularly the first wave of PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program loans that were available. Some clients and businesses struggling to access those because banks were often giving preference to businesses who had large deposits and who they had existing relationships with. So to not have a strong banking relationship and apply for the PPP loan at some of these larger institutions, individuals weren't receiving the funds. So we luckily we have great relationships with some regional banks. We have a really robust lending department who was able to connect a lot of our clients with some of the smaller regional community banks and help them obtain some of that funding. But it's a real challenge still.
No, I believe that. So I know we're getting close to the 9:20 mark, so I'll just kind of leave you a few minutes here to kind of, talk about any opportunities you've seen emerged or advice that you kind of have to give to
Sure.
people on the call right now.
Some of the axioms that existed before the pandemic and everything still exist. I still go back to something super simple, which is figure out what people need and bring it to them. If we're working with businesses, people still have needs. Talking to your customers, I think the more people sort of shut themselves off or revert back to their old go-to insular ways of conducting business and conducting themselves, I think that can be harmful. So I would say talk to as many people as possible. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to your customers, your loyal customers. Talk to your neighbors. Aside from just, getting out, volunteering, reducing stress, a lot of this stuff is really hard to deal with. And, I just think in general, the more that people are able to exercise some of those leadership skills and that emotional intelligence, especially for business owners, the better. Marketing is something. Internet traffic is up by 50%. I've read. Now is the time to pay attention to maybe some marketing efforts, to your tone, to sales, to some housekeeping items and projects maybe businesses haven't been working on. I will speak quickly and briefly about localism. So as you indicated in my bio, I was the Director of Economic Development and Business Services for the Andersonville Chamber of Commerce, which is an incredible organization in Chicago that really prides itself on localism. And there was a very famous study called the Andersonville Study of Retail Economics that indicated for every $100 spent at a local business, roughly 70 of that is retained within the local economy, as compared to a national business, which is roughly, 35 or 40 or something along those lines. They're a really amazing organization. Talking about just appealing to your local community, to your loyal customers, understanding the relationship between a healthy business corridor and the surrounding residents, real estate property. People who are really interested in commercial district recovery. There's, you may be familiar with LISC, the Local Initiative Support Corporation. They have partnered with a woman named Larissa Ortiz, who I know, and she has a firm called Street Sense. And they recently published this commercial district recovery guide, which if individuals are helping to, trying to help spur some revitalization efforts, if you just Google LISC Commercial District Recovery Guide, or if you go to their website, it's a fairly substantial packet that covers some best practices in getting a main street up and going again. That's one thing I can recommend as well. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, I think, we have a few minutes
Okay.
for some questions. Looks like we have one in the chat so far. Will you anticipate a learning curve with the SBA PPP forgiveness application?
I do. I mean, we've all, the situation with the PPP is so fluid. And it's changing. I know just last week there was some revisions passed. It seems to me that the PPP continues to evolve into more of a forgivable loan product. Before it was 75% of the loan had to be spent within certain areas to be forgiven. Now that's gone down to 60. The time frame has been extended to 24 weeks. Because the PPP is covered under the Freedom of Information Act, I think that there's a lot of attention being paid to some of these larger companies who received multi-million-dollar PPP loans. And I think initially I was advising some of my clients, and I still am, and I would still always advise on being extremely transparent, setting up a separate bank account to enable yourself to pass any potential audit, because to have this money forgiven is the goal in all this. But I really think there's so much more attention given to some of these larger companies that the $50,000, $200,000 PPP loans, they're moving more towards sort of a forgivable grant. And I think that will probably continue to evolve, but everything is changing. Everything changes every couple of weeks, and I'm trying to keep up with it just like everybody else is. But I do my best to get the most recent information out to all my clients. And luckily we have a really good relationship with some really good accounting firms here in the Twin Cities, Lurie being one of them, and they've made resources available to us to work with our clients with, and that's been very helpful too.
Perfect. So yeah, we have another question that just came in. What advice do you have for those working in more rural areas on how to attract and retain BIPOC-owned businesses?
So, I'm sorry, I was reading the question that popped up on the chat. Would you mind repeating it?
What advice do you have for those working in more rural areas on how to attract and retain BIPOC-owned businesses?
That's a great question. You know, I think entrepreneurship has always been kind of a hallmark of, you know, I don't think it's any surprise that immigrants and BIPOC entrepreneurs start businesses at a higher rate. You know, every community is different. Every place is unique. But you know, if there are BIPOC entrepreneurs in your community, you know, I would help to foster those. I would foster them. I would engage. I would meet with them. And try to connect them with resources. There are, I'm not exactly sure about everyone's background on the call, but I know that there are SBDC offices all across the state of Minnesota. In every corner, there are different regions that have SBDC offices. So, you know, I would engage those business advisors and SCORE mentors and volunteers to support these individuals. You know, the other thing during this pandemic, and whether it's a BIPOC entrepreneur or is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is, you know, if there is a demand for your product and your service and people want to support you as a business, crowdfunding, there are different platforms. Kiva Zip is one that I'm quite familiar with. That's a good way to raise money. You know, engage your neighbors, engage these communities, and help unleash and unlock some of that talent that's there and some of that entrepreneurial skill.
Okay, one or two more questions and then we'll have a soft stop, Eric.
Perfect. Yeah, we got another one. Are there alternatives that provide the same strength as banking relationships you're suggesting businesses develop? And that kind of, talks about the difficulty with immigrant-owned businesses establishing those relationships.
Well, you know, there's MEDA. You know, MEDA, and there are organizations like us that exist elsewhere. But we have tried to come in and fill a gap to be able to work with clients, help them grow and scale their business so that they can establish relationships with traditional banks. You know, our criteria, because we are a CDFI and because of our mission, tends to be a little more flexible than some of the traditional bank commercial loans that you see. You know, I mentioned crowdfunding before. So if you know, friends and family, and unfortunately, you know, what we've seen is this goes back to sort of some of the venture capital world, but a lot of BIPOC entrepreneurs don't have the friends and family with the net worth and resources in order to, you know, borrow large sums of money for seed funding for companies. So this is a problem. This is an issue. Friends, family, I talked about crowdfunding before. If there are alternative lending institutions like MEDA, or NDC or some of the others that exist. I would suggest tapping into some of those, seeing what's out there.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I'm just going to jump in at this moment because our promise with these webinars is that we go half an hour and then we let people go who have to go or have seen enough, but we will be sending the recording. However, Nick, assuming you can stay for a few more minutes, we'll continue to take some questions for those who can hang out some more with us.
Sure thing. Yeah.
You can see the one in chat there. It's kind of a big question from Lisa, but whatever you can offer there. What have you learned as a white person, I think you are, about building trusting relationships with BIPOC business people? And she said, I realize that's a big question, perhaps a thought or two.
Sure. These are all big questions. And like I said, I don't have all the answers. Sort of personally speaking, and this is maybe with my MEDA hat on, but maybe just with my own personal hat on. I think building trust is about showing up. It's about following through on your word. I think a lot of this work around business consulting with BIPOC entrepreneurs and business owners of any stripes, to be honest, is about earning that trust. So, it doesn't come quickly. It doesn't always come easily. And, I think aside from just understanding the potential that a lot of these BIPOC entrepreneurs have, I think it comes through showing up, being honest, following through, being genuine, and working your hardest to assist individuals. I think there's I could probably talk on and on, but I guess my two main points are, yes, obtaining trust is critical, absolutely, like probably the most critical element to this work, and you do so by showing up, sticking to your word, and performing at a high level, and having high expectations. And I try to do all those things.
That's very nice to hear. I think that's what it takes, showing up. I have another question from Michael Paris. If a municipal EDO in a mid-sized city was seeking to subcontract with technical assistant providers and had the funds to do so, what framework, types of technical assistance, and other advice would you have? Focus on small and minority women-owned businesses.
Okay, we're seeking to subcontract with him. Okay, well, so I would want to know what the mission of the EDO is. What frameworks? So providing small business technical assistance, if there was an opportunity to have the ability for this subcontracted provider to provide capital, if they were a capital provider, if they were a CDFI, that would be obviously really helpful assistance. But I will say the technical assistance in identifying some of the KPIs, some of the metrics with which you are going to evaluate this technical assistance provider, whether it's job created, revenue of clients served, contracts obtained, etc. I think being very clear on what those metrics are. Maybe it's commercial vacancies filled, making sure that those align with your mission, I think is critical. But I mentioned before, as a CDFI, we did about over $20 million in loans last year. Our default rate is quite low. I don't want to misquote and give out a number that is incorrect, but it is in line, if not lower, than many traditional banks. And the reason that is so is because of the technical assistance that we provide to our borrowers along with that loan capital. From consultants like myself and my colleagues. So, we are really working with clients, building the trust, building relationships, planning, reviewing financials, and doing all the other business advising work that it takes to grow and scale businesses.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to follow on that question from Mike Paris. Mike is in the third largest city in Virginia, and so it's a city comparable to Minneapolis or St. Paul. So I know that MEDA has contracts with Minneapolis's CPAD department, and you listed some of the names of some of the other CDFIs and nonprofits that work with BIPOC businesses in the Twin Cities. So in this time, of the pandemic, and obviously here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we've been rocked with some civil unrest. Are there particular things that you would encourage EDOs in either larger cities like ours, or the smaller cities like Katie brought up, the rural areas? But what would you encourage EDOs to think about in being able to work with organizations like yours, so that we can be successful in helping BIPOC businesses? Besides what you just said.
So when you say EDO, you're talking about an organization akin to CPAD here in Minneapolis. I just want to make sure I understand EDO.
I think EDO could be economic official or economic development organization.
Mm-hmm. I know that I think organizations like MEDA and like all of our partners here in the Twin Cities are, I think what we really provide to EDOs is we know the clients, the individuals who, the businesses that they are looking to stabilize and assist in recovering. We have relationships with because of the work that we do. So I think for an EDO who is looking to inject capital, inject some assistance, and assist those BIPOC businesses that have been impacted worse than any other business in these areas, need to work closely with organizations like ours. And, I think that starts with, a lot of transparency and probably some high level conversations among people whose pay grade is probably above mine to understand some of the best ways to do that. I know in Minneapolis, we've seen the city had a 2% loan program that has been, that is now 0%. And there are some qualifying criteria that have been eliminated to help the entry point into some of these stimulus projects be about as more friendly to entrepreneurs that want to take advantage of them. I think in the work we do, I think keeping those relationships strong, working together, understanding having alignment as far as who we're serving, what we're trying to do, is incredibly helpful. And it's going to take public, private, CDFI partnerships, all operating at a super high level in order to try to get through this. And it's important work, and I honestly feel pretty honored to be involved in it, and it's more important than ever.
Well, thanks, Nick. Patrick Donahue, I see that you've got the hand raised icon. I don't know if you're trying to get in to make a verbal question, if you can put it in the chat, or if you can unmute yourself if you have a question, or if you just hit a button by mistake.
I do. Yeah,
Go
can
ahead.
you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm trying to get to a meeting, but this conversation is really important, and I'm grateful that we're having it. So my name is Patrick Donahue. I'm a managing partner at Hill Capital Corporation. I'm also on the board of Entrepreneurs Organization, and I'm also a lead organizer of 1 Million Cups Eden Prairie. I say all that because I am looking specifically for help connecting to MEDA and Neon and all the organizations. My contact at Neon had moved on a year ago. We are doing a number of programs and different things, and I want to make sure we connect with all the resources, because we want to collaborate, provide open invitations to, I think your acronym is Bypoc, and do whatever we can to be a catalyst to be more inclusive. And so that's why I'm on this call. I'm hoping that whether it's directly with you, Michael, I know we've met in the past, but if anybody is on this call and can connect with me or provide us resources, we want to give people open microphones at events. We want to do whatever we can to invite people to events at Entrepreneurs Organization, 1 Million Cups, Hill Capital. Hill Capital is actively investing. So, our mission from day one has been all about impact. So anything we can do to connect, that's why I'm on this call today. So kind of more of a statement than a question, but at the end of the day, my question is, who are the points of connection throughout the community that can make sure that we have an open invitation on the schedules to all these entrepreneurs in the community to make sure that they have all the resources that they need to be successful.
Great. Well, thanks for calling in, Patrick. And Nick, why don't you make some comments, and we'll try to get Patrick's company plugged in. And that's part of why we have these calls too. So thanks for calling in, and drive safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Great. I'm happy to put Patrick. I'm going to just write your last name down as I see it on my screen here. I'm happy to put my email address here in the chat for anyone who wants to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to anyone, and regardless. I'm happy to offer up MEDA as that point of contact. The city of Minneapolis, the city of St. Paul, there's an organization called Grow North who is doing a lot of great work in the Twin Cities, in the space that you're kind of describing. It's always tough because things change, and having one long-lasting point of contact for everyone in the whole ecosystem is just, it's one of these problems that you see in every city and in everywhere you go. And things change and people move on, and there's weird political stuff that happens, but you're welcome. I would be more than happy to connect with you, Patrick, and plug you into all of our partners within our Catalyst network.
Awesome. Yeah, because there's, like I bring up 1 million cups and it's a national, there's 200 plus groups, and I don't even know what percentage of people on this call even know of 1 million cups, but this was founded by the Kauffman Foundation specifically to help underserved entrepreneurs. And
Yep.
so there's so many of these different resources out there, and want to connect the dots. And it's always important, but it's been eye-opening here in the last several weeks how it's really more important than ever. So anything we can do to connect these dots and the resources, because it always breaks my heart when I go to events and I bring up 1 million cups and invite people and they haven't even heard of it. And it's free, open to the public. We serve free coffee. We have volunteers that help do it all.
Yep.
Same thing with Entrepreneurs Organization. It's like one of the best kept secrets, and it's not even purposely a secret.
EO's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So, and now some of these groups are a little pay to play, right? Like it costs money, but we can get around some of those things, like invite people to certain events and stuff like that. So I want to do whatever I can to connect all these dots. So I'm grateful for everybody on this call and for you, Nick and Michael, to help make that a reality.
Do you have access to the chat, or is there any way that?
No, he's driving. But I'll tell you what, I will send out your email to the whole list of people along with the evaluation link, and so then Patrick will have your email. He doesn't have to write it down here, but I'll send that out. Everyone's got Nick's email, and then we'll try out future sessions. And one of my colleagues has just suggested that we have a session in this webinar series with 1 million cups. So maybe something like that could happen.
Yeah, and I could bring on somebody from Kauffman. And I saw in chat, somebody asked what EO is. EO is Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's a global organization. When we're on the calls, we have people from throughout Africa and Australia and everywhere. There's about 15,000 members throughout the world. And Minnesota does have a chapter with about 64 or so members, and that's what EO is.
Great. Hey, this is. And
Michael, my email's on my website. It's pd@hillcapitalcorp.com. You can send out my email. If anybody wants to connect to me, we are open and transparent. It's our core values as Hill Capital Corporation. So we take the time wherever we can to talk to people and help connect the dots.
Right. So
Thanks, Patrick.
pd@hillcapital.com. I'll send that along with Nick's email. And Thanks, everybody. We went a little long today, but this is obviously a very important discussion. We will try to have future topics, so please fill out the evaluation. Please give us your ideas like Kathy Mihalich did a month ago. And we'll keep doing these webinars as long as they're valuable. And again, thank you, Nick Wolff, for that honest and thoughtful sharing today. Good luck with your work. As you say, it's super important, and it's not necessarily easy right now. So may you have all the blessings that you need and be successful.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's wonderful being on a call like this with so many participants all across the state. My pleasure.
And Eric, yeah, you're welcome. And Eric, thanks for leading the conversation. We'll end it now. We will have the recording available in a week or two, and we'll send that out to the whole registration list. Thanks to those of you who could come today, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you all.